and Department of Justice. It needs to be cleansed of individuals who should not just be fired, but who need to be taken out in handcuffs.
I think the FBI has been compromised. Forget about shutting down Mr. Mueller. Do we need to shut down the FBI because it was turned into a KGB-type operation?
People are going to.
This is worse than Watergate on a million levels here.
Agree.
By the time we untangle this massive web of corruption, it will be worse than Watergate. It will be Watergate on human growth hormone and steroids combined at massive levels.
We may now have proof the investigation was weaponized to destroy his presidency for partisan political purposes and to disenfranchise millions of American voters. Now, if that's true, we have a coup on our hands in America.
Ooh, a coup. We are joined by New Jersey Governor Christie, who will answer the question as to whether or not we are witnessing a coup.
No.
No? So answer this question for me. I wasn't sure if you watched a lot of Fox News these days. I wanted to show you what was going on over there.
Thank you.
Sure. But I know you know a lot of the players, not just the president, but Chris Wray, the head of the FBI, is a close friend of yours, represented you in Bridgegate. You know all the players at DOJ, the political appointees, and a lot of the careers. Riddle me this. If you're innocent of collusion, why would you malign or greenlight attacks that would have the effect of maligning a special counsel investigation that could exonerate you?
Well, I think a few things to be said about that. I think the special counsel investigation will ultimately be judged by the results of that investigation. And you're going to hear a lot of yelling back and forth, partisan yelling for the most part, on both sides. Some defending, you know, if you go back and you rewind this to the Clinton era special counsel, you will hear the same things that Republicans are saying now, Democrats said about Ken Starr then, and the same thing that Republicans are saying now. I don't
remember any Democrat calling the FBI the KGB.
No, I'm just talking about the investigation, okay? Now, listen, you're going to get one guy on there who, you know, calls it the KGB. I don't think that represents Republican opinion of the FBI.
We could have cut an hour of tape. I mean, there is an ongoing smear campaign against the FBI.
Well, let's talk. First off, Chris Wray, who, as you mentioned, I have not only a personal relationship but a professional relationship with, is going to be an outstanding director of the FBI. He's smart, he's tough, he's principled, and he will do a good job as director of the FBI. Let's remember that he's only been in there a few months, and he's going to have to put his own stamp on this over a 10-year term that he has as FBI director. But listen, Bob Mueller made some mistakes here.
What mistakes did Bob Mueller make?
You have to vet the people that are going to be involved in your investigation if, in fact, you know, it's going to be such a high-profile, high-attention investigation. It doesn't mean that anyone is necessarily partisan or biased, but you don't want that appearance. If you're...
So where's the line? I mean, did you ever prosecute Democrats as a U.S. attorney?
Sure.
And so people knew that you were a partisan Republican. Did you ever consider recusing yourself?
No, that's not the same thing.
Why not?
Because I didn't have commentary on an ongoing, regular basis regarding the people that I was prosecuting.
Well, this wasn't commentary. Commentary takes place on television. No,
commentary goes on between human beings, Nicole. And the fact is that when they're doing those kind of things, I'm telling you, I'm not saying I know what they really believed and whether what they believed affected their investigation. But we spent a lot of time talking about perception and how perception can affect people's view of the fairness or unfairness of a judgment. So all I'm saying about Mueller, who, by the way, I have great confidence in and have said good things about, and I'm not changing my view on Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller is a good man who I think will try to do the right thing by this investigation. But it doesn't mean he's perfect. And by allowing folks into the investigation who can be charged, based upon their own words, with having a bias towards Mrs. Clinton or against President Trump.
So you're talking about FBI agent Peter Strzok.
Oh, no, I'm not only talking about Strzok. I'm also talking about Weissman, too.
Okay, so you think Strzok and Weissman should be removed from the Mueller?
What I'm saying,
been removed.
what I'm saying is I think that they should never have been on it in the first place.
So what is Weissman's sin?
Listen, if you go to the Hillary Clinton victory party, and then you're in the midst of doing an investigation.
You had spoken at political events, and you were prosecuting Democrats.
By the way, excuse me, I never spoke at political events as the U.S. attorney. Never, ever, ever did I speak at political events. Once you get into the Department of Justice...
But are you not willing to serve in a Trump Justice Department in the future?
You know, listen, I've been offered a Trump Justice Department
But would you take it?
No, I have no idea. But here's the bigger point.
I guess my bigger point is you are not disqualified from serving in the Justice Department because you've been an active political figure.
No, you're certainly not disqualified from it. My point is, you're not talking about just serving in the Justice Department. This is a discrete, particular investigation into a particular administration, not the overall administration of justice in the country, but a particular narrow investigation which you're being given. I'm not saying Andrew Weissman shouldn't be able to serve in the Justice Department, but what I'm saying is if you're Bob Mueller, you want to avoid this type of conversation at all costs.
But play it out. So what should he do? Should he check the private text? Should he ask for the phones of everyone on his team and see what they're texting to their friends?
We vet people thoroughly all the time. When
but these people were vetted. I'm just asking you.
Do you know they were vetted?
How do you? But what is the subscription?
Well, no, wait a second. You're assuming they were vetted. How do you know they were vetted?
Well, we know that Bob Mueller removed Agent Strzok once he found out what was on his phone.
But what was on his phone happened well before Strzok was assigned to this case. My point to you is that's stuff that you should be asking beforehand. This is a very small organization. It's not like you're talking about thousands of people, okay? Mueller has a small group of people that he's bringing in. That's getting larger, but a small group of people. There is no chance you can tell me that he couldn't sit down and start to ask these people, is there anything that's gone on in the politically charged last year, year and a half, which would call into question your objectivity? Not to show
let me show you that. I mean, would this call into question his objectivity? He called Donald Trump an idiot, something Lindsey Graham did around the same time, if you want to look at contemporaneously. He attacked Bernie Sanders, Chelsea Clinton, Ted Cruz, Jeff Sessions, and Eric Holder. Would you disqualify an FBI agent from working on an investigation if they had attacked all those people?
That's a clean once-over, okay? But when you go into the substance of his...
I've read them all.
Yes, so have I. And when you look at the substance of his text against the president, it seems to me that if you're now going to investigate that person's administration, and that's your only job, it's not to work on the Justice Department. This is one of many cases. He's assigned to this case. What I'm saying is, I'm sure...
Well, he's been removed, so let's talk about Andrew Weissman, who's still there.
Bob Mueller, I am sure that Bob Mueller, when he found all this stuff out, was sitting there and saying to himself, I wish I hadn't done this.
Well, he removed him, so we don't know what he said to himself.
Removed him, and I think what I'm saying to you is don't give, when you're involved in a high profile, and I was involved as U.S. Attorney in a lot of high profile investigations against both Republicans and Democrats, you have to not only be Caesar's wife, you have to appear to be Caesar's wife. Well, both are important. And what I'm saying is, this isn't disqualifying for the whole investigation. It is a mistake. It's a difference to say that Bob Mueller is a smart, competent, qualified, honest person, which I say, and saying he's perfect.
But do you think
he's not perfect.
Talk about moving forward, because now so you think Andrew Weissman is a liability? You think
he should be fired? I don't think he's a liability. He is a liability. He is a liability.
Under what premise? You don't think he's capable of investigating? No. So you think only Democrats can investigate Democrats and Republicans?
Absolutely not. He's a liability perception. That's what he is.
But my point is, play that out. I mean, would Republicans become the thought police? John Cornyn had a tweet over the weekend talking about cleaning house because of the perception problems. That is not how...
You know better than this.
So do you.
You know better than this.
Did you purge your office of people with bias?
No, I didn't.
Did you check their party registration?
But let me say this. No, I never checked anybody's party registration, but I will tell you this. When we were investigating a particular political figure in New Jersey, and we did 135 political corruption cases in my 7 years without a defeat. So we had a very good record. But every time when I would assign a prosecutor to those cases, I would ask them, do you know this guy? Have you done or said anything that would be contrary to him? If something came out that you communicated, would we be embarrassed by it? And by the way, I would have my counsel, who served me, ask me the same questions to see whether I needed to recuse on the basis of appearance. Because remember something, as lawyers, we don't have to be only concerned about actual conflict. We have to be concerned about appearance of conflict. And when you have as high a bar with the attention this case is getting, you have to be particularly concerned. I'm sure if Bob Mueller